This is the Jerry Doyle Show.
Yesterday we got news, we talked about it a bit, that the United States has formally recognized Syria's main rebel group. Now, supposedly that's going to pave the way for us to provide more U.S. support to supposedly end the rule of President Assad. Now, the Syrian National Coalition for Revolutionary and Operation Forces, that was formed in November of last year. And then November of this year, supposedly they got their act together, and now here we are in December going, they're good, we're going in. Really? Senator Rand Paul, the Republican senator from Kentucky, joining us on the program to talk about just what it is that is happening with Syria. Senator, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Jerry. Good to be with you.
We know that much about that group that quickly that we're ready to jump on board and say, whatever it is you need, you got it?
Well, here's my question. There's about 1 million Christians in Syria. About 250,000 of them fled Iraq when we helped install the Shiite regime in Iraq. And so, has anybody asked those Christians if they're excited about having an Islamic Republic in Syria? The bottom line is really the Christians really don't know what to do. They're not excited about Assad, but Assad was better than living in Iraq. And so are they excited about, this new coalition? Well, al-Nusra, we also say they're terrorists. That's part of this coalition. We say they're terrorists, but the coalition says, well, they're part of our best fighters. I think there's a great danger that the people wanting freedom from Assad also may become a radical Islamic regime.
We've known Assad's been a bad guy for a long time. Or at least anybody who's been paying attention to Assad for 2 decades. Even though Diane Sawyer interviewed him and talked about how he takes public transportation and he has an iPod with country music on it. But now it seems to be...
You're trying to say he likes Amtrak?
Yeah, no. That was a big thing with Diane Sawyer's interview with him, is that he and his wife love to take public transportation. And
well, that is insightful. I mean, now that we know that, what do we actually know, Jerry?
Right, but that's a good point, Senator, is that people see these softball presentations from Diane Sawyer and ABC News, and now we're trying to tell people that Assad wants to mix up sarin gas and drop it on his people, and that he's been a torturous dictator for 2 decades, and people go, yeah, but he's got Shania Twain on his iPod. How do you know that? Diane Sawyer told me. So people are getting mixed messages.
You realize he's an ophthalmologist also.
Yes, he is.
Yes. He's an ophthalmologist. He was trained in the West 10 years ago. We were all saying he was the hope, and that maybe he would declare peace and recognize Israel about 10 years ago.
And what happened?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the strange thing about this is once you get the machine talking about how bad a person is, they become a lot different than the way they were characterized just a few years ago.
Yeah, but he was like you. You probably went to those eyeball conventions together, and you probably had ice in your drinks.
The bottom line is that democracy, the Arab Spring, has some danger to it. Is do the majority of the people there actually want something that is sort of strongly anti-American or strongly anti-Israel? What do they want? And there is some real question. And, I've got some problems with giving F-16s to Egypt right now.
Yeah. 20 of them, in addition to what do they have so far? How many, the complement of F-16s that we've already given to Egypt, we, the taxpayers, have paid for?
And the other question is, where's the money come from? So we borrow money from China to make the world's most sophisticated weapons and planes. What makes us a dominant power in the world are our Air Force and our missiles and all of our technology. So we give that to people who are burning our flag, chanting death to America, and really didn't even do anything to protect our embassy about 2 months ago. So I have great concerns. In fact, I would stop it all until we're certain that the Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi, and the whole batch are really going to be good allies or not.
We decided to send these F-16s back when Hosni Mubarak was ruling Egypt. We, the government, the taxpayer, ordered and paid for them, but now the $13 million order is coming out of the taxpayers' pockets at a time when Mubarak is no longer there, but yet we're still meeting our commitment to send 20 of the latest and greatest fourth-generation multi-role fighter F-16s over to Egypt. Who's making these decisions, Senator?
Well, it's a tumultuous time. You still have hundreds of thousands of people getting into the street protesting now Morsi. So, Morsi comes into power because of protest against Mubarak. Now he's trying to grab absolute power, similar to Mubarak, and the people are still in the streets protesting, and people say, well, just give them more aid. Well, the aid that we gave Mubarak was used to purchase tear gas from Pennsylvania that we sprayed on the crowd. So people say, well, we just need to give more aid. Well, the people in Egypt, I think, perceive our aid as going to rulers that try to suppress their ability to come out and associate. So there's all kinds of confusion, but the one thing that's not confusing is we don't have any money, and it's not a good idea just to borrow money to throw around the world to say, oh, we're powerful and we'll, get everybody to behave according to what we like, but yet it's not even our money. We've got to borrow it to do it.
I'm sure you saw the report that came out from the Pentagon this week that was supposed to come out before the election about how well we're doing in Afghanistan with regard to training the Afghan security forces and their readiness. One of 23 brigades was actually ready and capable of going forward without any U.S. or NATO input. We saw that violence is up since the surge. We've seen green on blue incidents, which were 2 incidents in 2007, now 37 and counting in 2012. I would have to say that do people look at what we've been doing in Afghanistan and say, okay, that's working there. Let's take that to Egypt. Let's take that to Syria. Let's take that to wherever. Because if you take the report as the report is given, which Congress gets every twice a year, is supposed to look at, review, and make changes to accordingly, it's not working in Afghanistan. And it's not working in Egypt, and now we're supposed to believe that it's going to work in Syria.
Well, it's one of the saddest things that I've seen in the last few months. My wife and I were watching as a dad of one of our Marines in Afghanistan was interviewed, and he said he was coming home in a few days. He wanted to see his brother's football game, but he said to his dad, I think the guy that I'm training, I think this Afghan soldier that, supposedly is our ally that I'm training, I think he's going to kill me. And sure enough, 2 days later, this soldier did shoot and kill him. And it's just really sad to me. I mean, the mission, was murky at best a year or two ago, and now we have the people who are training shooting us. We can't tell the difference between our friend and our foe, and yet these same people who love being involved there are saying, well, we got to go help the Syrian freedom fighters. Well, ask the Christians in Syria, are you excited about these freedom fighters? Are they going to be the same people who put you in prison if they think that if you've committed blasphemy? So, things are complicated, and I really think that it's a world where we're out of money, and choosing the winners and losers in these wars around the world, just may not be the best for us.
Even Senator Rand Paul is with us. His website is randpac.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Sen, S-E-N, Rand Paul. Regardless of whether we had the money or not, I would think when you take a look at what it is that we've been doing, what's working and what's not, the whole notion of nation building, getting involved in everyone else's fights, I think people, just based on outcomes, would say not a good idea, even if we were flush with cash. But now with the limited amount of resources that we have, the amount of debt that we owe to places like communist China, $1.2 trillion, the Federal Reserve just printing gobs of money, the central banks pumping $11 trillion globally into the financial system, at some point you just have to say, is there a me first, America first kind of a mentality that's going to take hold in the House, in the Senate? Are people going to start to be more concerned about here than they are over there?
Unfortunately, I think there'll be a crisis in our country before that happens because the people up here are so disconnected with reality. I mean, right now they're talking about $60 billion in new money for the people who suffered from Sandy. Well, we don't have it, and we want to do that. We want to spend $60 billion to repair the damage on the Northeast. At the same time, we're sending $20, $30 billion a year overseas. We spent $100,000 last year in the State Department sending 3 comedians to India. The comedians, their promotional tour was Make Chi, not War. So $100,000. Meanwhile, we don't have any Marines guarding our embassy. The ambassador had no uniformed Marines, and we're sending, comedians to India to promote our culture. So, it's a disgrace what's going on, and I think there will be a crisis, and then people will wake up and say, oh, we've got problems at home. But unfortunately, we have expanding problems at home, and they keep sending the money overseas.
I know you're working on it. Keep doing what you're doing, Senator Rand Paul. The book, Government Bullies, How Everyday Americans Are Being Harassed, Abused, and Imprisoned by the Feds. You can follow him on his website, randpack.com, Twitter @SenRandPaul. Senator, best holidays to you. I know you're in there trying to fight the good fight. I know you're trying to get the attention of people who think they have the best intentions, but there's a lot of people out here that see this going on and have serious concerns about the direction of the country, and they have serious concerns about what it is we're going to see in the outcome of this supposed attempt to avoid the fiscal cliff. There's not a lot of positive vibes out there. Let me put it to you that way.
Well, I'm going to have to come out to Nevada and straighten you out.
Nevada. And if you do happen to know how to play blackjack, I would appreciate some assistance there, too, because the last time I played, I lost 23 hands in a row, and that certainly doesn't need to be duplicated. Senator Rand Paul, thank you, sir. Happy holidays to you. Keep doing what you're doing. 800-449-8255 is the number. Think about it. 20 F-16s to Egypt on a deal that we made 2 years ago so that Egypt can threaten Israel? Does that make any sense? We'll talk about that when we get back.
This is the Jerry Doyle Show.